What was originally a blueprint with multiple entrance points had been narrowed down to one. The west side of the compound was the only viable option left. The climb up the rocky incline would be harsh, let alone doing it without detection. But with the explosives, it could be worth it. I was originally worried I'd have to spend hours scoping out the perimeter and providing info to home base. But the colonel really outdid himself this time. He had everything covered. The intel on the guards' rotation was spot on. The crew put around me was solid. And these explosives looked top-notch. There was a realistic chance that we'd be heading back home before sundown. I avoided the clearings, sticking to the shadows where the foliage was thickest. Our route zigzagged, unpredictable to anyone who might be trailing me. The jungle was a living entity, and I had learned to respect it, to move with it rather than against it. A fallen tree blocked the path, its trunk slick with moss. I climbed over it, pausing at the top to scan the area. Movement up ahead, subtle but unmistakable. I dropped to the ground and Huel followed suit, our bodies blending into the underbrush. The sounds grew closer, voices murmuring in a language I recognized but couldn't make out. A group of 4 armed men, their every motion in sync. I waited, breathing shallowly until they passed. They moved with purpose, but their attention was lacking. They marched right past me, never even so much as glancing in my direction. I slipped out from my hiding spot for just a moment to watch them. It was my first time getting to see Blackwater's operation up close, and the inconsistencies in their discipline and equipment painted a clearer picture than any intelligence report ever could. They were close enough that I could make out the details of their uniforms, standard issue camo, but with variations that suggested a lack of strict regulation. Some had sleeves torn off and had personalized patches sewn onto their gear. Others wore high-grade tactical boots and vests that looked unused. Brand new. Too new. Their grooming was inconsistent. Some had neatly trimmed hair and beards, while others looked as if they hadn't seen a razor in months. Professionals decked in tactical gear ordering around men, seemingly unbothered by their slackened straps and unfastened holsters. I noted their interactions, the way they stood, and the way they spoke to each other. There were clear hierarchies, but the respect was begrudging. It was in these small, almost imperceptible details that weaknesses emerged, the subtle but telling lack of unity. These were the cracks I could exploit, should the need arise. I slid back into the underbrush, my mind racing. With a quick hand signal, I let Huel know we would be advancing. Just as he sat up, birds scattered from the trees above us, their sudden flight a stark reminder of how easily the balance could shift. We stayed still for another minute, but the guards remained oblivious to the disturbance, the rhythmic clack of their synchronized steps remaining unbroken. It was clear that many of them weren't expecting any real threat, and I understand why. They had no reason to, until today. I moved silently through the dense jungle, the undergrowth parting reluctantly with each step. My breathing was low, my eyes sharp, and Huel, my loyal dog, padded quietly at my side. The terrain grew steeper as we progressed, the jungle thinning out as we neared the cliff. I could see the compound's western wall looming above me, an imposing structure of concrete and steel that seemed to pierce the sky. The earpiece crackled to life, and Alex's voice cut through the ambient sounds of the wilderness.
Nathaniel, our window opens in 10 minutes. How's it looking?
Copy, I replied, keeping my voice low. I paused briefly, glancing back the way we had come. We're looking good, preparing for ascent soon. This militia's a mess, Alex. They're unbalanced and sloppy. It's perfect for us.
Great to hear, Alex responded. Ready for some more good news? The tech boys and I were able to pick up a signal from President Gates' vaccine chip. He's definitely still here, so we are clear to proceed.
Elena's voice crackled in my earpiece next.
Remember, keep your core tight and use your legs to push up. Your arms are just for balance. Your hip flexors and calf muscles will do a lot of work on this climb, so keep your movements and breathing smooth to avoid any strain.
I pressed on, every step bringing me closer to our target. The jungle, a living, breathing obstacle that I had long since learned to navigate. Great job, guys. You can expect word from me before impact. I'm going up. I heard the comms mics clip out. It was just me and Huel now. Us and a 100 feet climb. The jungle behind me was dense, but I needed more than just foliage for this climb. To my right, a natural waterfall cascaded down the cliffside, its steady roar masking the sounds of my ascent. The constant flow of water made the rocks slick, but it also offered valuable cover as I began the climb. My heart raced with anticipation, my senses on high alert as I scanned the area for any signs of danger. As I approached the base of the cliff, adrenaline was coursing through my veins now. I prepared myself. This climb could turn deadly in an instant. I slowed my breathing down, and my heartbeat started to sync with my breaths. I looked down at my hands, steady as ever. I grabbed a handful of dirt and rubbed it into my hands, drying off all the excess moisture. I closed my eyes for a moment, visualizing each step and handhold. I imagined the path up the cliff, the feel of the rock under my fingers, the placement of my feet. This visualization technique helped reduce anxiety and sharpen my focus. Huel looked up at me with a puzzled expression as I motioned for him to advance, but pointing upwards instead of forward. For him, I had a special harness and rope system rigged to help him ascend safely alongside me. I adjusted his harness, ensuring it was snug but not too tight, and attached the rope to my climbing belt. "All right, buddy, let's do this," I whispered, while giving him a few reassuring pats. I began the climb, feeling the rock's texture beneath my fingers. It was rough and jagged in places, offering plenty of handholds but also potential hazards. The waterfall's mist kept the rocks wet and slippery, but it also provided the necessary cover from potential guards. I moved steadily, using my legs to push up while my hands sought out the most secure grips. Every few feet I would glance around, checking for any signs of guards. The natural coverage of the waterfall and the surrounding jungle gave me a sense of security, but I couldn't afford to be complacent. The climb was arduous, testing my physical and mental endurance. About halfway up, I reached a particularly challenging section. The rock face jutted out slightly, requiring me to lean back and stretch for a higher handhold. I found a small ledge just wide enough for my fingers. I tested it first, ensuring it would hold my weight. Confident, I pulled myself up, shifting my weight to my right foot, which found a solid niche. As I reached higher with my left hand, a jagged edge, concealed by the water's constant flow, caught me off guard. My hand slipped slightly, and as I adjusted my grip, a sharp, unseen rock edge sliced into my palm. I gritted my teeth against the sudden pain and looked down to see blood seeping from the wound, mixing with the water and making my grip even more flimsy. Blood oozed out. I clenched my hand into a fist, trying to stem the bleeding. It wasn't a serious injury, but it complicated things. I adjusted my technique, favoring my right hand and using my legs even more to compensate. Huel was doing well, the harness system working as planned. He was large but agile, making the climb with minimal assistance. I paused occasionally to check his progress and make sure he was secure before continuing my ascent. The wind picked up, rustling vines and masking any noises we made. I could hear the distant chatter of birds and the hum of insects, along with us, all blending into the background. I occasionally stole glances around me, ensuring no guards were patrolling nearby. The last thing we needed was to be spotted now. As I neared the top, my left hand throbbed, the cut making each grip more precarious. I pushed through the pain, focusing on the task at hand. I reached a final challenging section where the rock face became almost vertical. I needed to make a dynamic move, essentially a small jump to reach a higher handhold. I braced myself, coiling my legs and steadying my breath. With a burst of energy, I propelled myself upward, my fingers just catching the edge of the ledge. As I hung there for a moment, swinging slightly, my right knee bumped against my pocket. The compass, my father's compass, jostled loose from the sudden movement. I felt the familiar shape slide out, and in a split second I knew what had happened. The compass slipped from my pocket and tumbled down the cliff face, glinting briefly in the dappled sunlight before disappearing into the foliage below. Fuck! Fuck me! I groaned several times under my breath, feeling a pang of loss. With a deep breath, I pushed aside the frustration of losing my father's compass. This wasn't the time to dwell on setbacks. I refocused on the climb, finding new determination in each foothold and handhold. The pain in my hand became a dull ache, a reminder to stay sharp and maintain my concentration. Huel followed closely behind, his steady ascent a reassuring presence. He was doing fine. We were doing fine. As we reached the top, I pulled myself over the edge with a final surge of energy. Huel joined me moments later, and I quickly unhooked his harness. We took a moment to catch our breath, the adrenaline still coursing, our bodies pressed against the western wall. There was maybe 3 feet of distance between the wall and the cliff's edge, but after that ascent it may as well have been a football field. I won't lie, after making it up there, I felt ready for whatever came next. "We're up," I whispered into the calm, steadying my voice despite the exhaustion and lingering pain in my hand. Alex answered.
Roger that, Nathaniel. Glad you're okay. We're 4 minutes out from our extraction window. Go ahead and install the firepower.
I nodded, reaching into my backpack and pulling out the explosive charges. The colonel's familiar voice came in, gruff as ever.
"Nathaniel, what's with all the cursing back there? You're usually quieter than a church mouse."
I sighed, still feeling the pang of loss for my father's compass. It's nothing. I lost my father's compass. That's why you don't bring sentimentals on missions. I replied, carefully attaching the first explosive device to the wall. There was a moment of silence, then a new voice chimed in.
Ho, 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 ho! Softy alert!
It was Boomer, always ready with a jab.
You already knew which way to go anyway. Up!
It's not that, I retorted, moving swiftly to place another device in a strategic spot. Though my heart disagreed, I continued, I'm just concerned there's a chance it could be found and linked to me. I must have not sounded very convincing, Alex interjected, steering the conversation back to practicality.
I guess I could always monitor Blackwater chatter. I'll let you know if we hear anything about a compass. Maybe describe it to me. Is there any reason it could be traced back to you?
I pictured the compass in my mind while installing another explosive. You got a pencil and paper nearby? Who am I kidding? Grab one of those tablets around you. It's brass, old. The back has our family seal. It's a curved scythe, and at its base there's a few stacked bundles of wheat. It's got a motto, strong and faithful, written in English and Latin. As I worked, carefully setting each charge, Alex paused.
Nathaniel, I've got an image here. Are you sure about this?
Yeah, that's it, I replied, relieved that at least one person was taking it seriously, adjusting the final device for maximum coverage. My mind split between the task at hand and the lost compass. Alex hesitated.
This looks like something I'd get in trouble for drawing at work.
I frowned, confused. What do you mean?
I drew it on my side.
Alex confessed, trying to stifle a laugh.
Nathaniel, man, that's a penis. Sorry, never mind. I'll start scanning militia chatter. Let's hope they're not discussing any lost family jewels.
He chortled before cutting out. I rolled my eyes and chuckled, shaking my head as I sealed my bag. Good to know you're an artist, Alex. Forget it. Just tell me how much time we got left. It really was a relief that amidst the tension, we could still find a moment to joke and keep our spirits up.
We're almost 1 minute out,
Alex said seriously, but with a smile still audibly in his voice. I refocused, double-checking the placement of the devices to ensure everything was set for our next move. All devices are set. Colonel Babineau stepped in one more time.
"Are you ready, soldier?"
My favorite words, I replied. Born ready, I added confidently.
"Then count us down and make us proud."
I held on to Huel, who was panting with anticipation, seemingly ready to climb another cliff if necessary. We were poised. We were ready. 3, 2, 1...